Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any announcements they need to make? Well, I can't think of any either. We're glad to have Wayne back and hope everything's running a little smoother with your craft. Appreciate you coming back and helping us through all this stuff. And tomorrow's day 30, and get you some peanuts and peanut butter crackers and put them in your desk drawer, because they'll come in handy about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when we hadn't had dinner. Only bill we got this morning is substitute House Bill 62. It's been through subcommittee and worked on. And Doc, it's all yours. Talk into the mic if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This is a bill that I am proud to present, and I think it's something that's really needed. You all know that I've been a veterinarian for all these years, and I practice a rural animal, food animal practice. But what's happening is, when I came out of school, that's all you had. If you went as a veterinarian, you started doing food animal practice out in the rural country. But now, as the veterinarians graduate, they can make so much more money doing companion animal until very few of them want to go out into this rural area. And so, you remember back a few years ago, they had the same problem with rural MDs, and they put a loan forgiveness program out for rural MDs, and they helped get it. I understand that some of these students now have in excess of $100,000 loan, I mean not loan, but debt when they come out of school. So you can just imagine if he owes that much, and he's trying to make ways to get it, and he would like to be a large animal veterinarian, this will help entice him to come. And so we came up with this loan forgiveness bill, and all in the world it's saying is that if a student owes a debt and he wants to finish veterinary school and go out into the rural community and practice veterinary medicine, he goes before this education board, which this bill would help establish, and then they will consider him as one of the loan forgiveness veterinarians. And if they accept him, they can accept only up to 5 a year, and they can give only up to $20,000 per year loan forgiveness. So we're talking about a total of $80,000 for the total student, and then times 5 students. So anyway, it's a deal I think is really good. Let me tell you what the board is made up of. The board was going to be called the State Veterinary Education Board, and it'll be consisted of 5 members. One of them will be the dean of the veterinary college or a designee. One will be the dean of the agricultural college or a designee. One will be the commissioner of agriculture, a designee. Then there will be a food producer who will be appointed by the governor, and food animal producer. And then there'll be a veterinarian who does food animal practice appointed by the Georgia Veterinary Board. These 5 then will compose the board, and they'll appoint their own chairman. And then they will have to have funds come and appropriated from the appropriations out of our legislation. So that's the biggest part right now. I think everybody realizes that there's a big, great need for it, and I think that it would be great, but it's just a little bit on the time when we are low on the funds. I went and talked to Ben Harbin. I went and talked to Governor last week, and Governor Perdue told me, he said, Gene, I wish we had the funds. I'd tell you to you in a minute, because I realize the need. So what I would like to see is maybe this bill go through, and if you think about it, if it passes, there's not going to be any money needed for probably 2 years, because first of all, the bill's got to be inactivated, the board's got to be established, then they got to make a contract with his student, and then he's got to practice for 1 full year out in a approved area before there'll be a fund coming. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's about it. One thing that we did change, if you'll see this substitute, is that we went back and took out all specialties except food animal specialists. Any question?
Thank you, Dr. Maddox. It's a good bill. Just a question. I think you've got 5 slots here. I think in the past I think our state-funded veterinary school of medicine has done a good job of attracting some out-of-state students and some folks that were not interested in practicing large animal veterinary medicine. Did you consider, and what's your feeling and what's your knowledge base, if you would comment on the need to possibly urge a little stronger that our veterinary school admit some more qualified students into the possible practice of large animal veterinary medicine, because it's an economic development issue across the state, and they're very needed. And I know of any number of folks that probably wouldn't even need this forgiveness if they had an opportunity to go to school at UGA and receive a degree that maybe are on the very edge of being qualified in that school. Right. Did you give any consideration to that?
I sure will, Representative Burns. Let me tell you this. Over in the Department of, in the College of Agriculture, I've been pushing for this for several years and several others, and now they've started. And Dean Angle now starts when these students are freshmen, and they make an application to be one of 5. So now they are choosing, Representative John, the 5 students that will be graduating from the College of Agriculture, which will be designated and guaranteed a spot in the incoming class of veterinary medicine. But they are food incentive people that's working in the College of Agriculture, students in there, and so that's 5. And they're not necessarily 5 here. They may not be. See, if we get this bill passed, they may not be but 1 needs money. There may only be 2. It's going to be up to the discretion of the board and how many needs it and how much they need. So that's really the fluctuation. You can't really put a dollar value on it. Dr. Dobbins is here, who's helped with CE and been finished school 1 year ahead of me, so we old codgers and know how neat it is for veterinary medicine. I'd like for Dr. Dobbins to come and give you a few points on this bill, if you will.
Before he comes, Chairman. Okay. Thank you. And, I appreciate the question about, encouraging more students, and it's something that I've been working on for years, but we put some money in the budget, I think, a couple of years ago, and I think we're committed to 5 or 6 more students in rural Georgia. But instead of the out-of-state students, I think we need to work harder to get some more of our in-state students into veterinary medicine. It's a shame when our students have to go outside of the state of Georgia to get a degree in veterinary medicine when they want to go to our state here. So I wish, Dr. Miles, that you would work with us.
Let me say this to you. They've been planning to try to increase. When I went to veterinary school, it was a brand new school. It was opened up and started in 1947, and the first class was 50, and then they even went. Charlie finished 58, I finished in 59, and it's a wonderful school there, but then they needed to do some increase in size, and they did this, I believe, in the 80s, wasn't it, Dr. Dobbins? But now the school is behind, needing some more spots, and we've asked for money to appropriate and build a new college, which they don't have it. But we do need a bigger size. So,
Doc, could you tell us how many out-of-state students we have slots for, and how many in-state students we have slots for?
Now I can't tell you exactly right now. Dobbins might be able to tell you more than I can on that. I do know this: when I went to school, we had 10 from South Carolina, 10 from North Carolina, 10 from Maryland, 10 from Virginia, and 20 from Georgia. Then since then, they have 89 in the class, and Virginia's built a veterinary college, and they've shifted around. So, Representative Lenmore, I don't know exactly what the number from different states are. Let's see if Charlie does when he comes through.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of council. In answer to your question, we take out-of-state students from West Virginia, then some at-large slots. It's I don't know the exact number of, I think there's about 5 or 6 at-large slots plus whatever the state of West Virginia supplies. North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, all have veterinary colleges of their own now. Florida, we did get some, although they weren't with the Southern Regional Board, we did have some students from Florida that would come. But they're primarily Georgia students now, except for the West Virginia and some at large, and South Carolina, I'm sorry. Does that answer what you need? All right. Very good. That's exactly what this bill is supposed to help. Gene mentioned that there is an existing program called the FAVIP, the Food Animal Incentive Program, that he indicated it's working with the College of Agriculture to take students from rural. They try to recruit students from rural counties to come get a background in animal science, and then they guarantee them a slot in the veterinary college. This bill complements that program tremendously. What this bill does is, through the board, they have, the bill says it would be counties of population of less than 35,000. And the board would decide which counties need it worse, I suppose, is what they would work. But they will set up their own rules to operate with. This would apply when that student graduates and wishes to go to an underserved area. They would contract with the board to be repaid at $20,000 per year for 4 years' work. They provide the work before the money is received. In fact, they don't receive the money. This pays for their educational loan that they have already. The state, in effect, will buy $20,000 worth of their educational loan for each year that they work. Any questions?
Well, it's really a question more so for the author than it is Dr. Maddox. On page 4, line 98, you got according to the census of 2000. We probably need to change that to 2010, being as we're about to get there as far as this going through. Do I?
What line was that?
Okay, never mind. I hadn't woke up yet. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
I might say that the Georgia Veterinary Medical Association has done a survey of the state and have identified at least 25 counties that do not have a resident veterinarian providing food animal work. Most of those counties are south of I-20. There's maybe 4 counties north of I-20. But we have identified the counties where there is a absolute lack of resident food animal veterinarians. We have veterinarians in those counties, but they do not provide food animal work. And this is where our problem lies.
Where I live, there's no vet.
Sir?
I said where I live in Crawford County, there is no vet.
And it's got Jim Brett, he went to the University of Mississippi to instructor, and left the town without a large animal veterinarian.
But this is a way of addressing your question about getting students from rural counties into the veterinary college. The FAVIP program does that, and this gives a way of getting them to locate in an underserved area.
Dr. Dobbins,
Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused.
All right.
We currently have a program that assures students that want to practice in rural counties that they would be, they would gain admittance to the veterinary school. Excuse me. Do we currently have a program that stipulates there's 5 students that would be admitted?
That's correct.
Well, that's not happening.
Yes, sir, it's happening. They're in the 2nd or 3rd year. Ed, is this the 3rd year of?
Graduated 2nd year.
That is currently happening?
Yes, sir. The
They haven't graduated any yet. They've been accepted last year and be accepted this coming year. So we'll have 10 of them in there, to my knowledge.
they're in.
They're in undergraduate school now. They're not. They've not been admitted to the veterinary school.
No, these are undergraduates going into the animal science department in the College of Agriculture prior to going to veterinary college.
Well, what agreement do we have with the veterinary school that this is something that will be followed through with?
Well, they
would be admitted.
They have initiated the program already on their own initiative. They've started this.
When did it start?
2 or 3 years ago.
I think, John, they got class from the College of Agriculture now in the freshman and sophomore years.
And they're guaranteed admittance into the veterinary school, 5 of them.
They're already there.
See, what happens is they had 89 spots, and they gave 5 of those spots to those 5 students from the Department of Agriculture, and so they were guaranteed they didn't have to compete with the rest of them. Now, well, they go in, they don't have to go into rural area. They were food animal incentive program, and where they go, it's going to be up to them. They're not under any person that's got to go back into a rural area.
But we don't have anyone already admitted under any program into the veterinary school who
sir.
wants to go back to a county and practice large animal veterinary medicine.
They have indicated their intention of doing so.
And we got 10 students, 5 in the freshman class and 5 in the...
I'm talking about last year, this year, and into the class coming up this fall, that we're already addressing the problem where we have funding and we have slots available that we're giving to South Carolina students and other folks, and we're not addressing the problem now. I mean,
we're not addressing the problem in the local underserved area yet.
Right.
And that's what this bill does.
But I'm wondering why we're waiting for those folks to go through the undergraduate program before we have folks who've already applied to veterinary school and who can't get in, who have a commitment to large animal veterinary medicine, who want to go to those underserved areas, is my question. Why can't we go ahead and get some preference for those folks?
Well, they're getting preference in entering veterinary college.
No, sir, not all of them are.
Well,
be glad to discuss it with you when we...
Okay. But just lost my thought there. The problem lies, I know now what I was going to say. This bill does not require that we wait on veterinary students. A graduate veterinarian that would like to go to an underserved area, if funds were available tomorrow, would be eligible to go.
As soon as it's forwarded.
As soon as it's funded.
Well, I guess my point is we've had difficulty getting students who want to go back to those rural areas.
Yeah.
Who don't need this loan forgiveness.
Okay.
And it's been a problem getting them admitted to veterinary school because of some of the admissions policies that we have as they pertain to out-of-state students and other folks that are not Georgia citizens.
That's what they did, an agreement between the College of Agriculture and the College of Veterinary Medicine, that they reserved 5 spots in the freshman class each year, started 2 years ago, and they come from the College of Agriculture. But they can't be seniors, and they have to start getting in when they're a freshman. They start as a freshman agriculture student, and then when they get through, Dean Angle will choose 5 of them to be eligible for that freshman class.
And I appreciate the bill and appreciate the work. I'm just worried about today.
Well, this bill would start as soon as it's funded, being if we had a graduate veterinarian licensed in Georgia, they would be eligible for the program on day one that the funds are available.
Next question. But they will not receive, one last thing, they won't receive their money until after they have come in, been accepted by that board, the 5 board members, have contracted, and then after they get a full 12 months of service, then they'll decide. They don't have to do 100%, Mr. Chairman, of food animal practice, but they have to give you, the farmer, the opportunity to go. I mean, you got them to come out and do your service as well as all the federal and state regulations that's needed on agriculture. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Gene, I'm going to support the bill. And I understand the philosophy of journey of 1,000 miles start with the first step. But I think a lot of steps need to be made in the School of Veterinary Medicine in the state of Georgia. Now, my question now, and it may be something that's over all of our heads. We have 2 schools in the university system of Georgia that offer degrees in veterinary science. One of those schools, the student cannot be accepted from one of those schools as far as trying to get into the School of Veterinary Medicine at the university. Why is that?
I don't know that the other school is offering that program. If they offered the program and had the animal science background, which they do have the capability.
Well, I have been told that from a land-grant institution, that's Fort Valley State University, you cannot get a degree in veterinary science at Fort Valley State University, or you can't transfer any courses towards your degree.
I don't think the other institution you're referring to has a bona fide pre-vet program.
Yes, they do.
They do have?
They do have.
They have a vet tech program.
The vet tech, yeah.
But that's different than a pre-vet program.
What can we do to help students from rural Georgia to synchronize these two courses, where one can go at Fort Valley State University or whether they go at the University of Georgia, they'll be able to go into the School of Veterinary Medicine?
If and you're referring to Fort Valley.
Right.
If Fort Valley has the capability of having a pre-vet program, not a vet tech program, that's an entirely different type program.
Mm-hmm.
If they have the capability of providing all the courses for the bona fide pre-vet program, it probably could be worked out.
I'll work with that and I'll get with you, Doc.
What we need to do is get with the Dean of Veterinary College and work through that just like they did with the College of Agriculture and see if there could be some spots designated in the class.
And Dean Angle and I have talked, not about this specific thing, but he told me that anything that he could do to help that university down there, he's willing to do it.
Dr. Mahaffey is here. He might wish to speak to this particular question on the status of a pre-vet program at Fort Valley.
Well, the College of UGA's College of Veterinary Medicine currently accepts students from universities all over the state, including those that you wouldn't expect them from. They'll have somebody from Emory come into that school who they have a list of course requirements that every student who's applying for veterinary school has to have completed this list of courses. And if Fort Valley would develop a pre-vet curriculum that included that list of courses, then I'm fairly confident that an application from Fort Valley would be accepted by the College of Veterinary Medicine. Now, what would happen today, Representative, is it would go into the pool with all the other applicants, and at the time those things get pooled together, they actually, truthfully, with the exception of the 5 positions in the College of Agriculture, all the rest of them, they currently make numbers. They take the names off of them and they make these folks numbers in evaluating the applications to try to keep it from becoming a process that's easy to influence. And so they take people's names off the applications and try to look at their application without their name on it. But they get them from universities all over Georgia, and surprisingly, Georgia students who have gone to, I remember one from Mississippi State 3 or 4 years ago. He was a Georgia citizen. He'd gone to Mississippi State, so they have those kinds of applications every year in their pool. And if a student from Fort Valley would get that admissions book from the UGA College of Veterinary Medicine that lists the course requirements to apply, and take courses that would, what I can't tell you with confidence is whether Fort Valley currently offers all of those courses that are required courses. That would be the catch.
One of the problems too is it's very competitive. There's 6 to 7 qualified applicants for every spot there is in the veterinary college, and that's tough competition. Whether it's as much or more, sometimes it varies from 5 to 7 qualified applicants for every spot that's available. Now, they have increased the enrollment in the veterinary college to 96, I believe now.
89.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is they keep them, if you increase the large animals.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman,
Mm-hmm.
make a motion to table.
I agree. I'm looking for students with a farm background myself. Thank you.
Got one more quick question, and I guess, Doc, you may can answer this. Under this bill, the way that I read it, it does not require these individuals that will receive this to be from Georgia, correct?
No.
They can be from any state. Are students from Georgia going to be given preferential treatment under this?
I couldn't tell you that, Representative Roberts, because the board, I guess, would have to make that decision. I would like for it to be yes.
Well, I think that we need to. I mean, if we're going to use Georgia tax dollars to pay for scholarships for people to come to college, then I think if Georgia students apply, they should be given first chance or first shot.
I would accept an amendment for the bill for that.
There's another side of that question. If we were looking to get someone into an underserved area as quickly as possible, we probably would not really care whether they were a Georgia graduate or not. If we wanted to get somebody tomorrow into the Georgia, the requirement is a valid Georgia license.
Well, I mean, now with all due respect, I disagree with you. If we've got a student from Georgia that is wanting that scholarship, then that student, if we're going to use Georgia taxpayers' dollars to pay for that scholarship, that student should get that scholarship, the way I feel.
This is not actually a scholarship. It is a payment of an existing educational loan.
Well, however you want to say it. We using Georgia taxpayers' dollars to pay off somebody's debt.
All right.
So, I mean, that's the way I see it now. The other members may not agree with me.
Well, would you want to limit the access if someone was available from another college that was available tomorrow? Would you want to limit them not being able to go serve in an underserved area?
Hearing you say you want preferential treatment for Georgians.
That's correct. Well, yeah, I'm not saying that you don't accept nobody else. What I'm saying is if somebody from Georgia is applying, then they get preferential treatment over someone from another state.
I've got no problem with that.
But what I'm reading out of this, if we had a maximum of 5 to be accepted, and 5 of those were college graduates from Georgia, and there was 10 people that made application, the 5 from Georgia would be the one accepted.
That would be correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me turn this off before you turn that on.
All right. Let me add on a little thought to this process here. Now, in my mind, this is a question where the focus and the intent of this bill is, and my preference is that we maintain the focus of this bill in getting good veterinarians into these underserved areas that's capable and interested in serving the food animal industry. And I would much rather have an old boy raised in Oklahoma on a cattle ranch over there coming into my area if I was needing a veterinarian than have someone that just happened to be from Georgia and that was raised without the background that we're accustomed to seeing people practice in the food animal veterinary. I think that background might overrule their area that they were raised in as far as their ability to meet the need that we have out there. Now, I think I believe this board that we've got in this bill would certainly give preference to someone from Georgia, assuming all other matters are equal. But I would much rather they have the ability to look at the qualifications of the individual that's applying, and if that person happens to be from another state, I think he might meet what I envision as the intent of this bill. Thank
you. To my friend, Mr. Blight, for years ago, I tried to get 2 students in the School of Veterinary Medicine whose father happened to have been the county agent in my county, and these children were born and reared on a farm. They were not able to get to the University of Georgia. So I guess in my heart, I feel that there's some prejudices going on at the University of Georgia. I'm not talking about racial prejudice either. I'm talking about rural prejudices there. My whole concern about what Representative Roberts said was, if we would give points, we call it preferential treatment, anything you want to, but you got a point system that almost help to get anything you want to get when it comes down to these kinds of things here. If you live in the state of Georgia, you get a certain amount of points, and if these points can help to put you above that person from wherever, then the person in Georgia would get it. That's my way I look at it now.
Could I make a? I sat on the GVMA board, not the board, but the directors for 11 years, and for a long, long time we had interviews. And when these pre-vet students are coming in to be interviewed, we would have two of the board members out, and we would interview them. We could give them 0 up to 50 points, and this helps. So, see, if I saw Jay Robertson's son come in or Terry's son come in, and I knew their background, I'd give them a 50. Well, they found out that's what we were doing. And so we were getting some of these preferences, and so that's when you were talking about a while ago. They took the names off, took everything off, and they did away with the interviews, and now every student has to go on his own and got no preferential treatment. I do think that sometimes, we had one, I'm not calling it name, but I know of 2 veterinarians that are older, like myself, and their sons wanted to get in veterinary school years ago, and they didn't get in. So, and they mowed, man, they squalled and raised sand. But, and if you run a business of your own, and you can bring your son into it, you can do it. But MDs, veterinarians, lawyers, doctors, and all, they can't do that. They got to go through a school. So.
Thank you. Then,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment. You go to page 3, line 88. After the word part, add the words preference shall be given to graduates of an accredited veterinary medicine college in this state. And the reason, I understand what Representative Black's saying about somebody from Oklahoma or whatever having a background, but I still say anytime we're going to use state taxpayers' dollars, and there's somebody from the state of Georgia that is there to receive this kind of loan or whatever, just willing to go to the rural part of this state and practice, then they should be given preferential treatment in this situation.
I like what you're trying to do, Mr. Roberts, and I agree with it. Well, my only concern is I'm not sure that we're getting there that way, because that boy from Oklahoma could come into the state of Georgia and go to that accredited school, and that wouldn't really address what I think you're trying to get is you want this to affect Georgia residents.
Well, I would prefer it be Georgia residents. However, if the person comes and went to the University of Georgia, then I'm making a compromise there.
Okay.
I can say I'm okay with that.
All right.
And I think Ellis, that's kind of what Ellis is trying to get at. This way it solves.
Preference is one thing. Limit is altogether different.
Right. So
I ain't got no problem giving a preference to Georgia residents or Georgia graduates and all this sort of stuff. But I think that board needs to have the flexibility to best meet the intent of this bill. Which is, the intent of this bill is to help provide the veterinarians in the area, not to assist veterinary graduates.
that may be me.
The real attorney, not the country farmer from North Carolina.
You asking him a little more?
Yes.
I drafted the language at Representative Roberts' request.
I'd like to find some language that says more or less what Ellis said, but basically where all things are equal, preference will be given to a citizen of the state of Georgia. I mean, and we don't necessarily have, I don't know exactly how we can do that, Wayne, but something that would say where practical, preferential treatment shall be given to a resident of this state under this part. I don't know what the language would be, but that's how I'd like to see it.
Practicing medicine in rural areas. Is that limited to Georgia residents and Georgia colleges?
I don't know. If it isn't, I wouldn't.
Sorry.
Is for rural medicine?
program that we have in place for placing medical doctors in rural areas in exchange for working that very simple this program. What are the restrictions on that as far as where they go to school and where they live?
I do not think there's a restriction on where they went to school.
But it is one on being a Georgia resident.
Yes,
And that's what I'm. These ought to kind of pair each other in some way. Or the next thing you know, you're going to open up the other in other areas that may not be intended. And the opportunity to try to get folks in the rural areas to do where we need veterinary medicine, we need doctors, kids, we need both of them. But I think the other program is restricted to Georgia residents. I think, not possible.
that I can't confirm.
Let me make one statement to do both. When we started this, Ben Strickland came, and he was the guy that helped write the legislation for the Georgia MDs rule, and he helped us with this. So we could probably get some information from Ben Strickland. Terry Coleman gave me his name.
Man, it's been a great program. It really has. This could be too. But I think we all pattern each other fairly closely. You're going to have some confusion and problems.
I'm okay with that.
I would just say, follow track, whatever that is, track it here.
One time I don't have my computer with me.
Could I make one more statement, Mr. Chairman? I don't remember if I said this in my explanation a while ago, but these veterinarians that come into these rural areas do not have to do 100% food animal practice. They can run a practice of a mixed area, but they have to give the service to these cattle owners like Ellis and Jay and Terry and the others and so forth, Tony. But so if you have a need for a large animal veterinarian, he has to come and give you service under those areas, but he does not have to do all food animal practice.
The matter is, I think, that a local boy or girl from Georgia is going to have a greater propensity for staying in the state and practicing veterinary medicine for the longer time. Guy from Oklahoma may come over here, get his 5 years in, and then he's gone to Atlanta to take care of poodles and kitty cats. However, if somebody from a farm or a rural area, I'm with Jay, that should be a local guy that's going to have a tendency to have roots in Georgia.
Have a license, Doc, right?
Oh, yeah.
To qualify for this.
Right.
A Georgia license.
Right. Yeah, this program is for a student who has graduated from an accredited veterinary college and taken the Georgia veterinary exam and passed it and is ready to practice in the state of Georgia. And then, of course, he qualifies to go into these rural areas and start his food animal service. And at the end of 12 months, the board will evaluate him. And if he has fulfilled his duty, then he will be allowed up to, it doesn't say 20,000, it says up to 20,000. So let's just pull an example. If student A over here had borrowed $80,000 and he served for 4 years, he probably would get 20 a year. Student B didn't know but 60, he probably wouldn't get but 15 a year. I don't think they would give 20, 20, and 20.
Tell Miss Patsy we said hello.
Yeah, I don't know who that was. That was somebody from down south.
The according to Wayne and what we were just discussing just a second ago, they do have to have a license, but however, that still doesn't mean that they are a Georgia resident.
That's right. Now that's something that we probably need to clarify then. Okay.
Is this going though, Wayne? Do we need to change this amendment now? No, I'm okay with giving preferential treatment to Georgia residents. But if we need to, according to the minority leader, if we want to try to mirror that same.
I'm trying to look up right now that part of the code is 20-3- something, just to see if I can find it. If we can
Doc, how'd you vote on 519 yesterday?
I saw it. Hey, I sort of went to sleep, and I looked up there and saw a red by this guy's name, and I followed it. But I understand it's coming back up, so I'm going to get it. Redeem myself.
That would be correct.
North DeKalb Farmers Association was with me.
You're in some good company.
Can I call the committee members' attention to the provisions of existing law, which you'll find in the bill? On line 16. On line 16, the existing law refers to residents of Georgia. On lines 25 and 26, it says they need not be limited to students attending a school located in the state of Georgia. So they could be a Georgia resident attending an out-of-state school. So at least for what it's worth, under current law, it is limited to Georgia residents without a limitation on school.
Yeah, we had,
Part that's getting struck out.
Yes. Current law.
so what you're saying is we could add it back in?
You could make the language mirror that if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even adding it.
See,
You can
can we have deleted that off on the substitute bill? And see, on the original bill, it had that in, and then we went back and Wayne and I shortened it, so this has been deleted out, hasn't it?
I'm saying if the committee wishes, language similar to that could be put back in elsewhere in the
Right,
bill.
okay, great. Did you see that, Mr. Chairman? Yeah.
I'm looking at you both nodding good.
Wayne, where would you put that back in at?
If I may ask, would that be a preference or would that be a restriction? Is that what you? Current law is restricted to residents of Georgia.
Well, then I think we need to mirror current law.
That'd be my opinion. Otherwise, you're going to attract everybody from not just the country around the world come here to work off the loans. It may be what you want. I really think it's to help Georgia folks come back and relocate in rural areas from Georgia. They may have gone to best schools anywhere, but it helps them come back and work that out.
Right,
Isn't that really
that's
what
exactly right.
Otherwise, you're going to have some people from who knows where. Now, this is Georgia residents we're talking about.
That's right.
Some from Lawrence County. But I think that was the intention, or some part of the discussion, not the part as well. Whether a student from Georgia goes anywhere in the world for medical school, if they can work out their loans by coming back to Georgia and locating certain areas. I think that's what you're trying to do here in a more broader way.
Right.
But that's who you're trying to help
Right.
and the communities you're trying to get to. And that's why
I'm okay with it. Yeah, I know, I'm with you. I was trying to help out. We was trying to go both ways, but I'm okay with this the way you're talking about now. Wayne?
If that's what you prefer, I have a suggestion then.
Yeah, absolutely.
On line 82, where it currently reads, loans made to students, insert after the word students, who are residents of Georgia.
All right, Mr. Chairman. Appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion that that be considered as an amendment. All right. Everybody's heard the words who are residents of Georgia on line 82 inserted after students. I'd like to make a motion that we amend the bill with that language.
second. Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
Not going to use the preference in Representative Roberts? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Maddox. Would you clarify one more thing for me, or clarify it again? As the admissions policy to the only vet school we have in the state right now is strictly on scores.
Right.
There's the policy that we had a few years back that would allow those folks that trying to gain admission, that may be from rural areas and may have a commitment to large animal veterinary medicine. That commitment on their part, whether it have been in their work habits while they're in school or in their commitment and where they come from, has nothing to do, is not taken into account as their admission to the University of Georgia Veterinary School of Medicine.
Right.
Is
Right
that
now,
correct?
there's no preference given whatsoever, and nothing's taken into account except strictly a score qualifications. Back a few years ago, we had up to 50 extra points on their qualification at application to be given to them, anywhere from 0 to 50 points, see. And so if you were interviewing this guy and you feel like he just really didn't feel like he fit the bill, you'd give him a 0. You'd give 25 or you'd give a 50. And so they did away with that because they thought there were some students getting preference because they were sons of veterinarians already there, etc.
Well, I'll submit to you, one of the reasons we're having to do what we're doing today, I talk about this bill, is that we don't have any preference for local folks who want to go back into large animal veterinary medicine because of the policy of admittance at the veterinary school.
Right.
And that needs to be addressed as well as this bill. But that's for another day and another conversation, because I appreciate this bill and the work you've done on it and this committee's work. But that's where the problem lies, and that's where we need to address the problem.
Let me tell you all one thing, and I won't say anything about it. The students come in here from out of state, New York, wherever, come in and establish residency and make a straight 4.0, and then when they're put in there, they just take the cream off the top. So if they're going to collect 60 students there and they take the top 60 grades, they get it, and we got some good qualified students down here. I got one friend over there, Bo Curls in Pelham, graduated and had an A average in high school, an A average in college, but he missed it 3 times, had to take it the 4th time before he got accepted to veterinary school. Of course, now he's back practicing in Pelham, Georgia. But, but he missed just half a point, 1 point. And if they'd had that preference of that 0 to 50 points, he'd got in. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, if there's no else, I just would like for it to pass if y'all see fit.
With an office in that county.